Yes.
Hey, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's uh, it's great to see all of you week after week, and today we have a very special guest. He is someone who enjoys blogging a lot. He has written a number of blogs, and one of his signature styles is bringing in humor in his blogs. So that's one of his signature styles. He is someone who is working in the field of business process management, though he is an aerospace engineer by qualification. He writes. He enjoys a lot of other things. He learned music. He learned to play mridangam as well. He is someone who has written a couple of blogs based on his personal experiences, adding a tinge of humor to it in a which are really a pleasure to read. It's my pleasure, and I'm immensely happy to welcome Ramkokul Sivasubramanian to our session today. Thank you so much for being here, Kokul.
Yeah, thanks, Balaji. Thank you.
Wonderful. Great. So, Kokul, so before I take questions from our audience, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then I'll be taking some questions from our audience.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, great. So to start with, what I would like to ask you is, when and how did your writing journey start?
I guess I was writing from since I was in class 9, I guess.
Mhm.
But at that time, I wasn't really serious about it. I was just jotting down maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs in a notebook. So I usually like to write. I generally write. Even I take notes for everything. So writing's kind of a habit. But it was only in class 12 that I decided to write my first piece of writing. So that was the first time I did it. And then throughout college, I compiled a few of writings from my own past. And the day I started the blog was when I was in 4th year. So that's the first time I posted on my blog. So I guess you could say that was the proper start of my writing journey. Till then, there was just a build-up of writing.
Okay, okay. Well, so it all started in a formalized way in your final year of college.
Yeah, that's when I decided to really make a blog and then start posting it and telling people that, hey, I'm writing.
Okay, okay, great. So do you have or do you follow any particular technique when it comes to writing?
Well, I haven't really looked up about techniques, but just some techniques that I've developed from my own experience. So writing for me is it's like building a statue. You have to sculpt it bit by bit. You can't think it all in your head and then write it down and get it perfect at one go. So you have to keep revisiting what you've written again and again and again. So initially what I do is I write a rough draft, and then after that I revisit it after some time. And this gap between revisiting your work is really important, because or else you won't find mistakes. I've noticed that many times. Like you can look at your piece of writing critically and everything will seem great. The next day when I open it up, I'll be like, why did I even write that? So these moments do happen. So that's definitely one technique I follow. It's chunking down the work and revisiting it again and again and chiseling it and making it good. Yeah, that's one thing.
Great. So I actually have this important question. Do you ever think about how would readers respond to the blogs you write? That thought, how does it actually impact your writing?
Um, I actually don't think about my readers much when I write. I usually only write it to my own satisfaction. And if I think that, yeah, this sounds good, and if there's nothing, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone or it's sensible writing, then I'm happy with it. So I generally don't think too much about what other people would think. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So I think that's a great thing to do if we can stop ourselves from thinking about audience response to that. Well, so now I have read your blogs and I find that somehow the words sit at the right places. How do
Yeah.
you go about that? How do you think about using right and appropriate vocabulary that doesn't sound boring for the reader as well? So how do you come up with that?
Um, I usually try saying it, and I see how it sounds. So I guess that's one thing. And then another thing is I try to get the right, I try to use the right words depending on what emotion and to what intensity I want it to impact my readers. Uh, so for example, if you want to just say something's good, you shouldn't say that it's great or it's amazing just because they're better words. So I usually pick out the words that I want depending on what intensity of emotion I want my audience to feel. So I think that keeping that in mind helps give the right meaning to the words. And yeah.
Okay, okay. So could you tell us how do you actually go about being your own critic? Because you said you analyze a lot. So
Yeah.
what actually happens?
I revisit it and I read it and I check if the flow is right. I check is there anything sudden that pops out or anything like that. So in that way, I critically judge the flow of the writing, and then also the content, how it is it meaningful and things like that. So I guess it's all about revisiting it again and again and looking at it with eagle eyes. That's how I go about it. Yeah.
Great. As I mentioned in the introduction, you are someone who could bring in humor into your blogs almost effortlessly. So could you tell us a little bit about that? How does that happen? And is there specific efforts you take to make it sound a little humorous, to add that humor?
Yes, maybe to the reader it might seem effortless, but there is a lot of effort behind it. It goes again and again through a cycle. I actually post only once a month because I'm not a very intense kind of writer. So that's why I usually post once a month on my blog. It was quite active when I was in fourth year, but nowadays it's a little bit low, the activity. So I usually give myself that large 1 month so that I can visit my work again and again. And when it comes to humor, yes, I usually try to think about how it sounds. So I try saying it, and is that funny? Is that funny to read? So that's most of the time that's what I try to do. So I can't think of any specific method I follow to bring in humor, but the only thing is that I keep it in my mind and I try to say, okay, let's try making this funny. Let's try a different combination of words, or let's rearrange it a bit. So it's kind of like trial and error. I wouldn't say I have a clear cut method for bringing humor into my writing. It's more like I just have it in my mind and then it eventually crystallizes into the text that I'm writing.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, now I would like to take questions from our audience. So if you have any questions, you can unmute your mic and ask directly to Ramkokul, or you can also post your questions on the chat. And I have mentioned the link for Kokul's blog on the chat as well. So those who are a part of our group, you would have gotten it already.
Yeah. Thanks, Budgie. I usually call him Budgie.
Yeah. Okay, there's a question from Meenakshi Sundaram, that is there a regular or a first proofreader for your blogs?
Usually it's my family. I read it out to my mom and dad, and they might have different points of view given their age and things like that. So sometimes I take those that I think are valid and I incorporate the changes before I post it. Yeah, I usually have my parents proofread it. Because actually this is a good point to touch upon, because no matter how many times you think on your own, there are always new things that other people can. A fresh pair of eyes always looks at something new. So this is a good question. Yeah, I usually have it proofreaded by either my mom or dad.
Thank you, Kokul, for that.
Yeah.
Well, let's take questions from anyone else. Yes, Neha, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Balaji. Oh, yeah. So, hi,
You can call
hi,
me Ram.
Kokul.
Yeah, okay.
Hi,
Anything's
yeah.
fine.
Hi, Ram. Yeah. I have a quick question. Like,
Yeah,
when I used to prepare for my Toastmaster speeches, I used to sit and write. I'm not great writer, and
okay.
I always feel like I'm very bad at my grammar. Sometimes I do so many mistakes, but when I revisit, then I understood. In the flow, I will write like past, present, and mix everything, and I'll write. So
Okay.
whatever I want to write, I'll just keep the things. Then when I revisit, I'll understand. Okay, so I'm mess upping the things, so I have to rearrange. Then
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
do that. But sometimes I feel lazy revisiting the same thing, and I'll find someone who can help me genuinely. So
Yeah.
how to overcome that bit of laziness of reading same thing, which helps us to improve?
Right. Like I guess laziness only sets in when you let it set in. Like if you if you even think for a second, oh, do I have to do this? Or if you try to delay it, then it takes over you. So my advice would be, as soon as you think you're being lazy, either you drop it for the whole day and you set a new deadline so that you can come back. Because sometimes we don't feel like doing things. So in that case, you can say, okay, it's okay. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to revisit tomorrow. And the next day, you should set a time and you say, no matter what, I'm just going to go and sit. Because if you go and sit and you start, mostly it's okay. That's what I felt. That initial laziness is only in the mind. Once you actually start with the action, the laziness goes out the window. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And
Yeah.
one more question. Uh, have you work on your humor? Like, I always heard like even I want to try. I tried humorous speeches also, but that is not. I want to try it, but that is not inbuilt in me. But I love to do
Okay.
that. I love uh, audience to laugh at my content in the sense the way spoke or the words I use,
Okay.
all those things. How to work on that? Do you have any idea?
Um, Sometimes if we can't be humorous from within, you might have to learn how to be humorous. So in that case, you could probably read books or look at speeches of other people about what makes things funny. And I think you can learn from experience, like just watching and listening. I do a lot of reading as well, so I think that really helps me to write and things like that. So yeah, if you want to be more humorous, then you should make sure you're seeing more humorous content, you're intaking more humorous text and video and things like that. You should just expose yourself more to it. So I think that will it's not something, I don't think it's a skill that you can learn like cycling. It more like it has to just imprint on your in the back of your mind. So more exposure, I think, would be the best way to overcome that.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you, Sneha, for those questions. And Rahul has asked how to get blog content ideas.
Yes, that's something I usually struggle with. That's why I do it only once a month. Uh, it is, I guess you should pick content that you like, first of all, or something that you know about. You For me, I usually pick things from my own experience. So I know exactly how I feel, and I know that okay, I have some content. But when you run out of things, it is sometimes hard to get new content. And if you do want new content, you might have to do a bit of reading, or you might have to gather more info to deliver new content. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, content is one of the key things that some uh, of the writers can definitely struggle with.
Yeah, I
Right.
actually struggle with it too. So I really don't have a clear answer to that.
Wonderful, wonderful. So here's a question from Yuvetika. She's asking how to make our blog get a high reach.
Right. I'm not sure how much I've reached people, so I don't think I'm great to answer that question. But I'll tell you what I know. So when you have a blog, it has to be active. That's one of the main things. Because there's no like spike way to the top. You can't do it suddenly. You just have to keep your blog active, and in the course of time, more and more people will get to know about it. So I think that constant activity on your blog is probably the most important thing for getting a higher audience to look at you. Because if they know that there's activity and they know that it's been there for a long time, word spreads and people will come to you. So I think these are the two main important things to make your blog much more active, and people are viewing it a lot. And it will take time. Of course, you can probably boost it by uh, posting out more and more content, telling more people about it, sharing it on your WhatsApp status and things like that. So you can use social media to promote everything that you do, because that is definitely a big thing. So you should try and put it out wherever possible that, hey, I'm writing. This is something I'm doing. So that's an important part. So if you do all of this, and in the course of time, your blog will definitely pick up.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Ram, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Balaji.
Please go ahead.
So Gokul, I had a couple of questions. So
Yeah.
what time of the day do you usually write? Do you find it is more creative in the mornings, early in the mornings, or do you do like late in the night, or do you just jot down as and when the ideas come in?
I usually jot it down roughly as and when the ideas come in, and then I begin writing. I'm more of a morning sort of person, so I usually do it in the morning. Actually, that depends on the person really. Some people are night owls; they only start, their brain starts working well after 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. But I'm more of a morning person, so I usually do it in the morning. Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of where do you kind of jot it down? Do you like just put it down in a notepad, or some app in
I
your
usually
phone?
stick to paper pen writing because
Paper
I like
pen.
the feel of it. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So you'll have to transfer it again to an electronic forum, or you just post it on your blog after that, right?
I usually write it down first, and then after that, that's just the rough draft. Only the first version is written down. There'll be a lot of scratching and things like that. And after that, I transfer it onto a Word, and that undergoes editing again and again and again. And then finally, I post it on my blog. So that's how I usually do it.
Okay. Maybe last one question I have. Have
Sure.
you participated in any kind of writing competitions, or any other forums that you can share if you have?
In college, there were a few creative writing contests, and in school, I remember I did write a few, but yeah, I did write. I did participate. Yeah.
Okay. But you typically write on blogger
Yeah, I
forum.
use Blogger. Yeah.
Blogger. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Ram, for those wonderful questions. So Meenakshi Sundaram has asked, what are your favorite books, and are there any that you would recommend to us to read this year?
Okay. There was this one book that really stood out to me. Actually, there are two main books that I think are really a level apart. So the first one would be called A Man Called Ove. So that's the name of the book. I actually don't remember the author's name, but I think he is well known. He's written a couple of books, and this book called A Man Called Ove. That's the name of the book, and this book was it mixes in humor and emotion in a way that I've never seen in any other book. It was really moving and really funny at the same time. So this is definitely one book I recommend that you have to read once, at least once. And the other one is A Thousand Splendid Suns. You've probably all heard about it. It's by Khalid Hussain. That book was also extremely intense in terms of I felt like I was watching a TV series when I read that book. It just you can visualize everything that the author writes. So these two books were definitely two books that stood out to me apart from all the books that I've read. So these two books are definitely you should give it a try. These are my recommendations.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Kokul.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can really feel how much you enjoyed reading those books. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Yuvetika has a question. Which platform are you using for your blog? I think,
Blogger. Yeah.
yeah, blog. Okay. I think you just mentioned that. Okay. So,
I can see a
and
few
yeah,
questions in
sorry.
the chat. I can see a few questions in the chat, I guess.
Yeah. I'm picking up the questions from the chat. So,
Okay.
Praveen is asking, who's your favorite author?
Favorite author? I wouldn't say I have a favorite. I usually just stick to the favorite books I have. Some authors that stand out to me are Agatha Christie. I've read a number of her crime novels, so those are quite good in terms of the plot. So that's one thing. And then Dan Brown's books are also really engaging. So these two books, these two authors, I've read multiple books of these two authors. Most of the other authors, I've only read one or two of them. So yeah, I'd go with Dan Brown and who's the other person? Okay, I forgot.
Agatha Christie.
Agatha Christie. Yes, right.
So that happens to be Praveen's
Thanks,
favorite.
Praveen.
Yeah, it's my favorite as
Yeah.
well.
Okay. All right. Great. So, okay, there is an interesting question. So, why do you like to write?
Why do I like to write? I basically like to think, and I usually just jot it down by writing. I guess that's uh, that's the simple way to put it. I usually like to I like writing. I just gives me a feel that yes, I've thought of something and I've articulated and I have it in my hand, and it's something, a piece of work that gives me a sense of joy.
Okay. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Kokul, for being here and answering all our questions patiently. And please do stay with us. I'm just going to get into the next section where all of us are going to write based on some prompts that I share. And after maybe 15 to 20 minutes, we'll start sharing whatever we wrote. So
Sure,
that's
Bala.
how the flow is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now I'll move on to the next section. So today I'm going to give you 2 or 3 prompts, and you can build on that. And as usual, if that doesn't work for you, you can write whatever comes to your mind. There are no restrictions. These prompts are just, if you have no idea where to start, these prompts can be a place for you to start. So that's the whole idea about giving these prompts. Otherwise, just feel free to write whatever you want to write, and on whichever medium you like to write, whether paper and pen or or on laptop or whatever it is. And after 20 minutes at 7:45, I'll start asking you to share what you have written. It's completely optional, but I would surely encourage all of you to share. And we cannot guarantee any copyrights here. So if you steal something from here, give credits to the person who wrote that. So that's what I would like to tell you. Now, here we go with our prompts. So the first prompt that I would like to, as the new year is around, so my priorities for 2022 are. So you can start with that and continue, or you can write something on these lines. Why did I reject resolutions? So you can write something around this if you wish to. Or another option is, I never expected. So you can start with that and continue whatever you want to write. And if none of these prompts work for you, you can write whatever you would like to write. We have 20 minutes to write. So as we had some feedback that 15 minutes is too short for everyone to write. So we'll take 20 minutes to write today. And at 7:45, we will start sharing. Thank you. And till